really thinking about the people that you talk to and getting better about the people that, but talking to the people that called you and why did you call me? And is there any reason that you chose my side, and getting some insight into that. And that's when you'll really start to understand what people are looking for, the questions that they have when they come to your looking for information and land on your side, and really trying to hit those points and kind of in a way writing a story from your page. And, first they need to be introduced to you and who you are, because that's the biggest thing with a transaction that big. So people mainly are trying to work with someone that they can trust, and someone that they see as a real person that's genuine, that has a track record of, helping other people, and then finding out what kinds of questions do they specifically have, and then being able to answer them.
Helping hardworking real estate investors, agents, and entrepreneurs grow a better business, mindset, and future. This is the Carrot Cast podcast. Now here's your host, Trevor Mock.
All right, y'all. We're going to dive in to this Carrot Cast. I almost said Carrot Camp episode, because I was thinking about Christina, who's on here with me. I was at the last Carrot Camp with this Carrot Cast episode. And before I hit record, we were talking about something called 75 Hard. Many of y'all may have heard of the 75 Hard Challenge. If not, you will hear about it here in a second. And it's something we're both doing right now. And I've been following Christina on Instagram on it. But what we're going to talk about in this episode of the Carrot Cast is really Christina is an amazing investor. She leverages Carrot really, really well. Had a chance to get to know her and hang out with her for several days up here at Carrot HQ at the last Carrot Camp, and just really impressed at the way she's built her business in a really competitive market. Los Angeles, y'all, it's not Roseburg, Oregon. Los Angeles is a competitive market. And she's doing really, really great on the Carrot side, and just an inspiration for so many people. So I'm going to welcome on Christina Kudlock on the Carrot Cast. And I don't think this is going to be the last time, Christina. So welcome on your first time here on the Carrot Cast.
Thank you. Yeah, this is not lifelong goal, but since I've known Carrot, this is the goal.
I love it. So the first time that I remember the first time that I had heard about you was from Adrian. And Adrian sent me a link through Slack on one day, and he's like, dude, you got to check out the site. And I clicked it, Mrs. Property Solutions, and there's pink everywhere, and the page is built out really well. It looks amazing. And I can't remember if I reached out to you or someone on your team, because I was so impressed with the way the site looked. And I said, who did this? Because I want to find more people that can do sites like this on Carrot. Yeah. And, you got someone who does amazing work for you. But that was my first introduction to you, is whatever she's doing, she's standing out. She's not just being one of the crowd there in Los Angeles, and it looks great. So let me toss it back over to you now. Let's let people know, kind of give people some context. Who are you? Where do you do business? We kind of mentioned it, but what does your business look like? Like, what type of real estate do you focus in on? That kind of a thing.
Yeah. So my site was actually built out for Los Angeles, and that's where I had been living for the last 5 years. Mm-hmm. I recently, just a few months ago, moved back to Phoenix, where I'm originally from. And cool. So for the last almost 5 years, I had been doing real estate in Los Angeles, primarily wholesaling. Did a few flips, but wholesaling is definitely my niche. I like wholesaling, and but we've gotten to the point now where I'm really trying to just be buying more to keep and cool. starting a rental portfolio. And that was one of the main drivers for moving back to Phoenix. Gotcha. So I'm here now, and I actually just expanded my site to now start including Phoenix as well too. So that's been really exciting seeing, it's cool because it took me, at least a year and a half to get on the first page of, or at least to the top of the first page for Los Angeles. But I built out some Phoenix and Arizona sites, and already I'm, a few months in. There's a few few keywords that I saw, I was at the bottom of page 1, 4, and then, some on page 2 and stuff. So that's exciting. It just, once you build up that authority on your site, it's easier to hop into the other markets. So
that's something I definitely want to touch in on this, because we'll talk about it a lot. I've really been moving towards the evergreen marketing phrase around this now. And with SEO specifically, so ranking high in Google, it's a momentum game. And I say it all the time, and a lot of people aren't willing and able to kind of stick through, those hard months, or even in a really competitive market, a year maybe. But that's the cool thing, is once you get that momentum and you've done that work, which we'll talk about what that work is here in a bit, and kind of your journey on that and what your results are now, because you're doing really, really great. But once you get the momentum, everything else becomes easier. And that's kind of the definition of momentum. When you think about a flywheel, or you think about like a car, you're rolling down a hill, the hardest part is getting the car up over the hump. But once it's going, it just goes, and it's effortless. Totally. And I'm not going to say SEO is effortless ever, but it makes it way easier when to launch that 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 10th, 15th market. Rankings pop fast. Yeah. Which is cool.
My experience.
So you're in, and you're going into the Phoenix market now. And so people know, I always like to kind of break apart what someone's business looks like, because some people have a big business, some people it's a solo operator. And I think everyone has their own different ambitions and version of what their dream business is. So what does your business currently look like? Is it just you? Do you have people on your team?
Yeah, I have me. I have 2 VAs, 2 full-time VAs, and then I have an acquisitions manager in Los Angeles.
Cool.
And then my husband is kind of my acquisitions manager here in Phoenix.
Cool. And so let's talk about that team a little bit. When did you add the first person to your team, and kind of what role was that, and what was the pain point that you were experiencing that made you want to add that team member?
The VA first. Yeah, definitely the VAs first. And I think a lot of people, when they get going, you start to get really consistent. My thing, as I was getting SEO going, in the meantime, I was cold calling. And at first, I'm cold calling by myself, and then you start to build momentum, and then you start getting the deals, and you're having to work the deals, and that takes your efforts away from being back on the phone, pounding the phones every day, which got you the deals in the first place. And so having, the first person for me back in the day was getting a cold caller, so that I could still keep the momentum, and, I wasn't the one having to hit the phones every day, and I could focus on, managing my leads and then closing my leads.
So that right there is a really, really critical distinction. I want people to listen to this, especially if you're newer in your journey on real estate, because oftentimes there's a couple paths I'll see people take. One of them is they do the marketing thing, the outbound marketing thing that works. It gets a bunch of results, but now they're busy doing the fulfillment of it, right? So you did the cold calling, or you did the direct mail, or you did the door knocking, or driving for dollars, or whatever it was. And then you got an influx of stuff happening, or consistent enough to where you can't do as much of that activity anymore. And so then you're focusing on that, thinking, oh my gosh, life is amazing because I've got all these leads now. You work through those leads, you might get your deal done, or maybe you don't get any done. And then you go back to go, okay, now where'd all my leads go?
Right.
Like, oh, shoot, I stopped the thing over here. I stopped that activity over there. And we'll get into it a little bit later. That to me is one of those reasons, and one of those spots that evergreen marketing can kind of shore up some of that consistency, the SEO side of it, because once you do the work, it always works for you as long as you maintain it. But your volume comes from offline. And that's where I want people to think about that. And so, Christina, let's fast forward to today. Are you still doing cold calling, and kind of what's your marketing mix look like?
Yeah, I actually just recently cut the cold calling. I was doing cold calling in California, and that was honestly, I closed most of my deals from SEO. And it's funny too, because it's totally the 80-20 principle. 80% of my efforts are coming to the cold calling, right? Having to listen to the calls, having to just all the stuff that comes along with managing your cold caller, and then the leads just aren't as good. So you're having all this busy work from all these cold calling leads when 80% of my deals are coming from the SEO anyway.
Yep.
So coming over to Phoenix, I ended up, switching the cold calling on and moving it over here and taking it out of California. But I don't personally think cold calling is a great strategy for Phoenix, just because it's just so saturated here. You have all of the gurus and their troops that are teaching everyone, to cold call and everything, or all forms of marketing. But, listening to my cold caller, every single phone caller, people hate answering right away and being like, I'm not selling my house, like without her saying a word. Like it was way too frequent that I was like, let's shift a little bit. So right now we're doing primarily SEO, doing some PPC, and then I have very niche mailers going.
So that right there, same thing. I want to unpack that a little bit, because there's a couple concepts in that I want to dive deeper with people, just kind of give you a really holistic look at marketing in general. Okay. And so we talked a little bit earlier where Christina, was implementing SEO early on in the game, and it took a while. Like in a market like Los Angeles, it took, she mentioned, about a year and a half to really get to the top of Google in the spots that she was wanting to, where those leads are coming in enough to close consistent multiple deals every single month. But what we teach here at Carrot, and what I want people to listen to, is I've never, and I will never say, probably will never say you should only do SEO or you should only do PPC. They all have their benefits. They all have their drawbacks. And they all have the amount of, like, some of them are quicker and some of them are take longer. And so with the SEO side of it, you need to have something that's happening in the short term to get leads and deals coming in, unless you're willing to wait that 6, 8, 10, 12, 18 months, depending on your market. And so Christina spun up cold calling, you notice, in both markets at the start to get those leads and deals coming in. But then she ended up replacing them with that evergreen marketing as that momentum got built up. And that's the vision I want to cast for people is, I want to ask you this question here, Christina, but that's the vision I want to cast for people is, you can always get leads and deals from places. But my question is, what type of business do you want to create? What type of business do you want to run that would be more enjoyable for you? And so for you, what are some of the reasons that you enjoy and like? You mentioned some of them, but what are some of the reasons you enjoy and like that evergreen SEO leads coming in versus having to build up a cold calling team and go through all the leads?
They're ready. They're, the cold calling leads, they take a lot of babysitting. It's very rare that you find, it does happen. Absolutely. You could pick someone up who's like, oh my gosh, it's crazy that you called. I was just talking with my husband about this yesterday, and those are great. But for the most part, it's, call me back in a few months and this and that. Whereas the SEO ones, they're calling you or submitting a form because they want an offer right now. And they're usually, they've given their information to several different sites, and they're collecting offers, and they're going to make a move. Most of them, in the next few weeks, if not sooner. So that's the number one. And I mean, the spreads, they're always my biggest deals, the SEO. So, and they're just better.
I love it. So I want to break apart the way that your business is structured based on your marketing too, because this is something it took me many, many years to realize this. And when I talk with a lot of real estate investors or agents, they'll look at their marketing as a way to get leads. They don't really look at their marketing as a major influence the way their company is structured. And so when you were talking earlier about the cold calling part of it, and I'm not knocking cold calling, y'all, it works great. Like, it works great. You just have to decide, is it going to work great in your market? And then number two, is it going to work great for the type of business that you want to run? And so when you do cold calling, you have to have people calling people. You're going to end up getting a higher volume of leads, which means you got to have people deal with those leads and follow up on those leads, which adds more expense and or more manpower to your team that you've got to manage. And when you do a marketing method that is a high volume lead method that's low quality, it means you have to have people to go sift through all that stuff to find the gems. When you do a high quality, low volume method like evergreen marketing with content and SEO, you can still yield the same profits, if not more, with less manpower on your team. You just have to have the patience up front. And so think about that, guys and gals, as you're structuring those teams. It's not a do I do this or do that? It's recognize that your marketing will dictate what your company structure will look like, and then ask yourself, am am I okay with having to have many team members or extra team members to sift through the volume of low quality leads? And it's whatever your answer is, it's okay. Just make sure you're asking that question for sure. So with that VA, Christina, you'd mentioned you turned cold calling off in Los Angeles and then you shifted it over. Are you still keeping that VA on for other types of things as well? Or does she or he only do cold calling?
Yep. Yeah, I have. So I had the one VA was cold calling. I had two VAs cold calling for a little while and then shifted over the one from cold calling to doing a lot more SEO because I just was starting to get to understand her and understand her skill set. She was actually, that was much more a better fit for her. And then the other one, she was cold calling as well. But since turning off the cold call, I've been having her help me with some disposition stuff too. So she's still on the phones and even, sending texts and stuff to buyers and, and just like odd projects, all these just random like research stuff that comes up that send it to a VA.
So let's spend a few minutes on VAs, delegating VAs work and projects, because I think that's something that, especially if you've never done it before, it's kind of scary a little bit, where you're going, man, like, how do I do it? And is there going to be enough work for me to have them do? And how do I make sure they're doing good work? So let's kind of start at the start there, if you don't mind. Where do you find your VAs first? And then we'll kind of dive into how you work with them.
Yeah, Upwork. Upwork has worked really well for me. Easy answer, Upwork. I know there's a lot of I've heard VA Hub and Fiverr and stuff, but Upwork has consistently worked best for me.
Okay, so you're going to Upwork.com, and then when you go to Upwork, are you posting, what does your post look like? I guess what types of things are you putting on there to make sure you're attracting the right people, and then how do you go through those candidates to make sure that they're going to be good for you?
For me, what was always number one, especially because both of my VAs, I originally hired them as cold callers. And so what was number one for me is just the accent. I just wanted to have a clear accent, somebody who it wasn't hard to understand, because that's, that's important when you're calling, when you're on the phone. So that was number one for me. And the kinds of posts, I just, every time I post, I like to have something that basically kind of gives them a task to do, some sort of a little project, so that it gives them an opportunity. First of all, only the super motivated ones are even going to hump or jump through those hurdles.
Yep.
And then it also, just the other probably a thing with that too is it gives you the ability to see their work.
Gotcha. And so with that first project, is that like a paid project, or is it more, hey, you just got to do this simple thing? That's
no, it's usually like a simpler task. I'll have something like read this script kind of a thing, my cold calling script. And that probably takes, a minute. And then the other task I usually do is like an Excel thing.
Gotcha. Cool. So the read and I'm assuming record the cold calling thing and send it back to you so that you can hear them talk and exactly. That's perfect. And then the Excel one is like, can you follow details? Can you figure out how to use a basic thing? So you're probably gonna be using Excel or something like that a lot.
Exactly. Excel, or I like to give them some sort of a data mining project, because I get lots of things where hey, if I'm trying to, let's say I'm trying to find realtors for an area that I'm trying to do dispo for, I'll have them go to realtor.com, collect a bunch of realtor email addresses for a specific area. And then, so just, little tasks like that, just cool. So I understand that, hey, you can follow directions and you have at least some level of computer skills.
Yep. So you've got the VA, you are confident in the VA. Kind of what does it look like for you on the recurring basis then, Christina? Are you meeting with them every week, every day? Kind of what do you do to make sure that they're on the right track and they're producing really good results for you?
Oh yeah, you got to have at least weekly meetings, and to give someone, unless someone is doing just very data entry kinds of tasks, then I don't know, maybe you could get away with meeting with them a little less frequently, but especially like when they're cold calling, I tried to set aside, it's always my goal to at least set aside an hour every week to just go through calls. And then what I'll do is I make them sit with me and do the calls with me. And it's easier because at first I would try to listen to the calls and then go and have a meeting with them. I'm like, this is taking too much time. And so just combined it all, like, you're going to sit here with me and listen to calls. And it's great because it keeps me accountable because at this point I hated listening to calls. So that's why I was like, get away with the cold calling. Like, that's not what I want to be doing. So, but at first, that is what I did. And so I combined it, but you totally see a difference too, because when I wasn't being very consistent with listening to their calls, and then like maybe a few weeks later, I'd go back and I'd listen to them, I could totally see that like the quality of conversation dropped off.
Gotcha.
So, just, being consistent and giving that coaching, especially if a lot of VAs, they're in another country too. So it is important.
I like it. So let's shift topics a little bit. So you leverage VAs, Upwork.com. Christina walked through kind of how she works with them to make sure that they're effective, and it's a great working relationship. And we've talked a lot about the cold calling has been a part of your mix, but you're moving away from that. And are you mentioned PPC in the Phoenix market? That's something that will get brought up to us, like, man, PPC is really expensive here, or whatever it is. Doesn't matter what market, it's always expensive, even when it's cheap for people. But what are you experiencing right now with PPC in Phoenix? Because there is a lot of competition there. Is it working? Are you closing deals from it right now? Kind of what are you experiencing?
Yeah, I've been doing it for a few months now. So I'm still kind of in my, what's it called? Figuring it out phase. I've only closed one deal from it, and I haven't gotten, the first, Braden actually, he helped me dial into my campaign a little bit better. But before, I think my first month I spent, and my budget was like $3,000, and my ad spend, or not my ad spend, but my I got 2 leads and spent $1,700. So it wasn't spending all of my budget. And so I've been making some adjustments. I'm very, just because with SEO, the reason I've done so well with SEO is I've learned it myself.
Yeah.
And so I think that gives me a little bit of an edge. So I'm kind of trying to go about PPC the same way and struggle through it. So I'm definitely still in the struggle phase, I would say. But I actually just bought a book I'm pretty excited about, the Google AdWords. So
I saw you post that one on Instagram. Yeah. I've never read it, but it looks like a great book, and I'd be curious to hear how it is and how it does for you.
It came highly recommended, so I'm excited.
Good. Yeah, the Google PPC thing is interesting. Brendan, he runs traffic for a lot of our clients internally, and PPC, there is a good formula, but as you know, every market's gonna be a little bit different. Keywords in different markets are slightly different. Like, they're pretty much 80%, 90% the same. But if you're in a market where it's a big home investors market, as an example, there's going to be some freight, like where they do a ton of offline marketing, like a Dallas or something like that. There's going to be some phrases in those markets that are going to be really, really popular online. If you're in a market that's a big bandit sign market, where some markets just flat out don't let you put bandit signs up. Most bandit signs say something like "We buy houses," and so your "We buy houses" phrase are going to be pretty darn strong in those markets. In addition to whatever other types of marketing, if there's a lot of direct mail that's getting pumped into that market, and a lot of them are using the "We buy houses" type phrase online, you're going to see good "We buy houses" searches. One thing that we have found worked pretty darn well, Christina, and this is a semi-advanced technique, and you've got to pair it with good content on the website. But we'll find those competitors that are doing enough marketing that are showing up as suggested searches in some way, shape, or form on Google, and then we run ads on their on their keywords, like on their company name and XYZ reviews. And there's some ways you can do it to where it works well, but at the same time to where it converts, because when someone's searching for a specific company, they've already got that company in their mind. And it is kind of hard to knock someone off of that train of thought of, I'm going to research this company because I already talked to that person from it.
Yeah.
What can work well is some sort of a comparison ad copy, where it's like, I'm making this up. Let's say it's ABC home buyers reviews is what they Googled, right? Mm-hmm. And you could put something like, before you sell the ABC home buyers, get an offer from Mrs. Home Buyers, blah. And then, something there, or you can even put a testimonial type of a headline up there in the ad that, we got 30,000 more than ABC Home Buyers would sell us to from Mrs. Home Buyers, or something like that. So it's something to look at anyway, as you go with it. And then you would just make sure that the page you're driving to is some sort of a comparison page. And ideally, and here's one great way to do it, is as you're going through working with some of the sellers, ask some of those ones that you close deals on. Like, hey, did you talk with any other investors before you worked with us? Were there any that made you offers? And hopefully there's going to be some that say, I talked with ABC Home Buyers. And then just ask, like, what was it that made you go with us then? Well, it was these 3 reasons. Oh, that's amazing. I'm so glad we were able to serve you. Would you mind, because there's probably a bunch of other people that are probably weighing that same decision right now. Would you mind if we recorded this really quick and I could just share it with other potential sellers who are also thinking about the same thing? We can just make sure we can serve them really well too. And then they're going to record it. And just, so you already coached them on the testimonial. You already coached them on the testimonial. Like, hey, we talked with others and we talked with ABC Home Buyers and this other one. And we ended up going with Mrs. Home Buyer or Mrs. Property Solutions because of XYZ. And we're so glad that we did. They're like, bam. Now that gets its own page. It gets an ad from ABC Home Buyers. And then you drive it down in there. Something like that would work really well.
Cool. Yeah. That's tricky.
Yeah. And that's where I want to see our clients leveraging testimonials a lot more effectively. Because I think what a lot of people do, Christina, and I can't remember if we talked about it at this Carrot Camp or a previous one, but testimonials are one of the most powerful things that we can have, but we don't spend very much time studying how to get a great one or taking the time to craft a great one with the client. And what most people do is they'll say, hey, it was great working with you. Would you mind if we recorded a testimonial? And no one wants to give a testimonial. Like everyone clams up. And, if we were on this call and I'm like, hey, Christina, testimonial time. All right. Do you mind if we do a quick testimonial for Carrot? You would do it. I know that you would, but it wouldn't be the best content. It would be whatever's coming out of your brain, which would probably be some good stuff, but it wouldn't be the best.
Yeah.
And what we want to get to is objections. Like testimonials need to address objections and they need to make people feel comfortable with you. And so think about those primary objections against your service or against someone else's service and ask really specific questions to figure out their objections. Like, who did you talk to before us? Why did you end up choosing us? Yeah. Whatever it is, like what were you nervous about that was popping through your mind before you ended up working with us that you were able to get over, that we were able to work through with you during the process? Well, I was really nervous that you're going to lowball me. Okay, cool. Well, now I know. And so then you ask them that, hey, same thing. Would you mind if we just kind of talked about the same stuff, but just recorded it? Because I think some other people are weighing the same decisions. And if we were able to get this in front of them, probably help them a lot. Okay. So you mentioned that you were nervous about blah before. Okay. We'll walk through what you were nervous about and let's talk about how we solved it. And that's ads.
That's someone selling you, having someone else sell you instead of having to sell yourself.
Exactly.
Much more impactful.
So let's go to a few more questions on the SEO side of it. And actually, I wanted to start the podcast this way and I didn't do it. We're going to talk about 75 hard to end this up and the challenge that we're on. But on the SEO side of it, we didn't really talk about kind of what it's been doing for your business so far. So what are you guys doing right now SEO wise, deal wise? Because you have talked about it's your best deals. They're the most motivated. But how consistently are you getting deals right now through SEO?
Yeah, we have 3 deals this month that are going to close. Last month we had 2. the time before that 2, the time before that 1, that was when stuff was, and SEO, it's honestly, it has been a hard year for SEO from a lot of when I'm talking with other investors too.
Yep.
But I mean, we'll see after, well, who knows what's happening now with just the world, but we'll see. I'm really hopeful that I think this is going to be a great year for SEO. But either way, it's just the best. You really do get the best leads with it. And as far as this month, we have 3. And what's been really interesting too is lately I actually did a whole redesign of my site about 2 months ago, and I haven't been getting more leads, but I've been closing more, and the deals have definitely been like jacking way up. So that's been really exciting.
So that right there is really cool. I literally just got off a podcast with another Carrot client, Brian Driscoll. He's up in Pittsburgh, and he is absolutely crushing. He gets about 100 seller leads a month through his Carrot site up there. He's ranked number 1 for tons of stuff. He does Facebook ads and Google ads. And the funny thing is he's on the opposite spectrum where he's like, dude, I just launched the thing. All I did is swap out the logo and build location pages, and that's it. And that's pretty much what he did. He didn't change any of it up. And what we had talked about on there is positioning and pre-framing. And so what you're talking about there is you leverage the high converting framework and the good SEO optimization framework of Carrot, but you're pre-framing those leads better now. So when they land on that site, they know there's 4, 5, 6, 10, 20 other options out there to sell. You're doing a better job, it sounds like, now with this fresh redesign. And let's talk a little bit about what you did. That'd be kind of cool. But it sounds like you're better pre-framing your service. So when they reach out, they're already almost sold on the service. So what did you end up changing this time around, Christina, that you're seeing a boost on the closes?
There's actually far less content on my site. And it's crazy too, because one of my biggest SEO tips that I've been giving people for like the last year is the more content, the better. And that's kind of what makes it easier to rank. And like, if you have a piece of content that you want to rank really well, go and look who's already ranking for that and then do something better than what they have, right? I mean, it's simple as that. And oftentimes that comes with longer content than they have. But I've kind of shifted away from that especially for my homepage. I think that works with, if you're going to get really specific and do maybe like a long tail keyword, but for a main, like We Buy Houses Los Angeles or something like that. I think that the content, the way I was approaching SEO before this was trying to write content for Google, right? What's going to rank well, what's going to be optimized and get me to rank number 1. But I've been doing this shift to now what's going to convert to the person after they're already there, because I've been number 1 in LA for, I've been number 1 for a while on different keywords and whatnot, might flex. But since making these changes to my site, like now I have Los Angeles on lock for any keyword that has Los Angeles in it, I'm pretty much number 1 for, which has been really exciting. But the main thing is, people, when you have all this content that you're writing for Google, people get lost in it. It's just so much content on a page. And so now I've been, I've kind of gone with these blocks of information that I'm trying to do, where I'm really highlighting what I want people to know better instead of here's this long list of content that you're going to have to read through, like bigger titles with some bullet points and hitting on each of your points in these different blocks that you're doing. Oh, there it is.
I'm going to share it. I accidentally shared my Spotify a second ago. I'm like, I clicked the wrong window. So anyone watching the YouTube version of this, I'm going to, if you don't mind, Christine, I'm just going to show a couple of these things in here. If you're not watching the YouTube version, if you're listening to the Spotify version or the Apple podcast version, guys, go to YouTube, look up Carrot or Agent Carrot, Investor Carrot. You'll find us somewhere. And then find this one. Just look up Carrot Christina Kudlock, Kudlock, and you'll find this episode. And we're going to be showing her site. So There's some cool stuff because one thing as you were talking about it, there's a couple different ways to position content on a site, and what Christina says, 100,000% true and amazing. Where you do have to have robust content on there to rank well in Google. Like you can't have 12 words or even 200 words to rank number one for a Los Angeles phrase. A lot of people kind of like opendoor.com or their sites. And one of the drawbacks with theirs, they definitely have a very hard time ranking their pages because they're so design heavy. And not very content heavy. And so if people get an opendoor.com postcard, they're going to Google Open Door, they're going to land an Open Door site. That's perfect for that because Open Door is always going to rank number one for Open Door. But where they're having a tough time competing against our clients like Christina is they don't have enough content. But what Christina has done is taken that robust content and reformat it so it's a lot more palatable and easier to digest for that person reading it rather than a big old huge block of text. So, you got good credibility there at the top, massive button. The bigger the button that we found, the better, especially on mobile. Because if you shrink that puppy down to mobile, that's going to be a big fat button to click, which is really easy. And if you think about, especially if it's an older demographic, if they've got it on a cell phone, oftentimes they need big form fields, big buttons to make it work easier. The smaller it is, the harder it is going to be for them to use it on mobile, and your conversion rates are going to go down. A couple other things that are interesting on this that are awesome, Christina, that the more we started doing this a year and a half to 2 years ago as well, is really talk about the alternative. No repairs, no agents, no commissions, that kind of a thing. Because everyone knows they can sell their house, but no one wants to pay commission. And so if you can show some sort of alternative, that's great. Credibility, I love it. Age of credibility. And then I'm just going to blow through this, guys. I'm not going to read it all. But you can see how she's used our block editor or V8 maybe, used our block editor to better break up the content visually. And so, she's got this amazing section here. The pink branding stands out. There's probably no one else in the Phoenix or LA market that have this feel, which I love. So your carrot site's just not going to look like others in that market. And so you can still leverage the high converting, high performing, fast system of Carrot and our tools without, while you're still able to stand out. So this is important too, guys. She has a form at the top, form field in the middle, and she's still got another form or two here. That's one thing that we have found is if you are going to have a lot of content and sections of the content, make sure you're having a call to action throughout the content many times. I love this. Pictures, lists of things, testimonials throughout. Guys, this right here is how you make a site stand out in a really competitive market. And you can see, I'm going to finish with this. I'll toss it over to you, Christina, is throughout this, you've done so good injecting real life credibility everywhere. And I think a lot of people want to be fancy with stuff. You guys literally took screenshots of your Google, of your BBB, and that's perfect. Yeah. I love it. What are some of the things, Christina, as you guys were going through with this, you guys obviously use the visual editor, which there's some improvements we want to make on it for sure. But did you guys just use creating blocks on there? Is that what this was? Special blocks?
Yep. It's all just blocks.
Okay. And then you've got a ton of location pages. You see you got your Arizona page, California pages. And same thing, guys, big, easy to read content, big fat button. It's all in there. This is leveraging the Hemlock design, I believe. Yeah, Hemlock. Great testimonials, case studies. One thing here I want to show you guys is you can see what she's done here is when we've seen this on heat maps before, is things like this people click. People want to click this stuff. We found on heat maps where someone just has an image up, and I'm going to verbalize this for you guys just listening to this, is below her opt-in form, she's got a Facebook link that says 5 stars, Google 5-star reviews, BBBA plus rating, Yelp. Oftentimes people will click those in our heat maps. And so it shows people want to click it because they're trying to close a loop in their mind. Mm-hmm. And what Christina has done is she's hyperlinked these. So when you click it, it's going to take you down to that section of the page where it talks about Google reviews, and it links directly to the Google review thing. So it closes that loop in their mind. It furthers that sale. You guys put a lot of work into this. This is awesome.
Thanks.
This is really
I
good.
still have lots of, it's a constant revolving process. And especially looking at it on another screen, I'm like, all that's going through my mind right now is everything I need to fix.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I'm on a monstrous computer screen right now. And I like, it was a huge window I brought me out to. So the average computer is not going to look like that. That's for sure. So there's a couple things I want to bring up here, and then we'll bring this to a close here in a few minutes. But if you were watching that YouTube version, you guys might be looking at that going, man, how do I make my site look like that? Why doesn't Carrot make it look like that out of the box? Well, design wise, it does. So she's using the Hemlock design and the Advanced Marketer Plan. That's a design that way fewer people have than the traditional one that you'll see. And then they use our block editor to go through and build in the different. It's so funny. My 10-year-old daughter here, we're going here to dance here in a second. She's hammering out some push-ups. She's making me proud. Oh, McKinley, you're doing your first, my first 75 hard workout for me.
75 is getting to her too. That's awesome.
Right. I love it. But as I'm going through with this, guys, like the way that Christina has set this up, we can't go through there and know that you guys have Facebook reviews or amazing Google reviews, or we can't go through and know that you have 14 amazing video testimonials. So if we were to set up these pages that had 9 video testimonial boxes and all these Google and Facebook review things, it wouldn't apply to most people. And so we have to roll something out that's going to apply to every single person that sets it up, and then make the features available for you and the editor available so you can build out these other design functionalities and testimonials and sections better.
Well, and using your guys' power editor too, that's been, it makes everything so easy too. So
I love it. So last question on this, were you following anything as a guideline for doing this? Because I know there's a client of ours that has made their site similar types of things. And there's some others that are really and I'm talking more like really amping up the personal credibility, that part of it. Were you following any model, or were you mainly like, hey, let me just make what I think looks great and injects a ton of testimonials?
Do you know what's his Gerald?
Yeah.
Gerald Norden.
Yep.
He kind of, I had a conversation with him about the guidelines of just trying to get better at like not doing the keyword stuffing, right? And really just trying to thinking about the people that you talk to and getting better about the people that it's hard because you do already have to have consistent leads to be able to do this, but talking to the people that called you and why did you call me, and what is there any reason that you chose my site, and getting some insight into that, and that's when you'll really start to understand what people are looking for, the questions that they have when they come to your looking for information and land on your site, and really trying to hit those points and kind of in a way writing a story from your page. And first they need to be introduced to you and who you are, because that's the biggest thing with the transaction that big. So people mainly are trying to work with someone that they can trust, and someone that they see as a real person that's genuine, that has a track record of helping other people, and then finding out what kinds of questions do they specifically have, and then being able to answer them.
This is so good, Christina. I love it. I hadn't seen the changes you'd made, and I'm flipping through it, and it's like, man, it really speaks to that seller, like you're saying, and it joins the conversation in their mind and builds. You can't go through your site and not know, man, number one, she knows what she's doing. She's had a ton of people that have had great results, and it's a real person. Like there's emojis on there. There's pictures of you. I love it. So good work with that. So let's shift for the last few minutes to 75 hard. So in December, for those of you that were following along on my Instagram, and I have not been good actually, as of the time I'm recording this right now, I have not been good at in December with Trevor Truck Docs. And so I haven't had a chance to really talk about the big biking challenge that I did in December. I'm going to be recording one probably this week on that. And I went right into 75 hard in December. I knew I needed to get momentum into the new year. Christina, I felt like I was I knew 2021, I personally needed to grow, like as a husband, as a father, as a leader here at Carrot that's going to have 50 employees shortly. It's like, I need to grow. And if I'm not growing faster than the company is, then I'm slowing the company down, and I'm not going to show up at home very well. I'm not going to show up, in my faith very well. And so I looked at December and said, let me do something I've never done before that's really, really hard, that when I do it and commit to it, I'm going to go, damn, how am I actually going to do this? And I said, I'm going to ride a mile for every day in the month. So if it's the 15th of the month, I'm going to ride 15 miles. The first of the month, 1 mile. So, and not miss a day. Like I couldn't miss a day. And so I ended up doing the whole thing, completed it Christmas Day, got my 25 miles in, woke up really early before the kids, went to bed late, the whole thing. And I finished it and I said, okay, that was amazing. I found a way to get a daily habit in. Now I need to move to the next thing. And that's when 75 Hard came up. And so why don't you, Christina, talk about 75 Hard? Because you mentioned you've been, I think 55 days in, 57 days in previously.
Yeah.
Tell people what it is and what you've experienced with it in the past, and you're going through it again right now with me.
Yeah. So it's the 75 Hard Challenge. It started by Andy Frisella, right?
Yep.
He's the creator of it. So it's doing 2 workouts every day, 2 45-minute workouts every day. One of them has to be outside, rain or shine. You take a progress pic, you drink a gallon of water, you stick to a diet with no cheats and no alcohol, and read 10 pages of a book every day.
And there's some really interesting things about it, because a lot of people will look at it and go, well, like I'm going to swap reading out with listening to an audiobook or podcast, or because they think the act is like learning something new. And really it's not. And it's not even a fitness thing. It's not it's a mental thing. And for anyone listening to this going like, oh, why would you need to do 2 workouts a day? It's because it's hard. Because it's hard, and it forces you to adjust your schedule in a big way and cut out the fat and cut out the crap. And the alcohol part, I don't drink a lot, but I like my beer. Like I enjoy a good beer and I enjoy whiskey. Yeah. And I can't say that probably in the past 5 years, I've gone 75 days without drinking, even though I don't drink much, but I don't care about it right now. I just literally don't. I really don't care to have a beer or have any whiskey or anything like that. And even 6-7 days in, I guess we are for this round of it, you're starting to, it's hard sometimes, but you're starting to feel that routine just happen and go, well, I after this is over, I'm probably going to go back to having a beer every now and then. I don't want to cut that out the rest of my life. And I'm probably not going to do 2 45-minute workouts every day, but I am going to be eating better every day. I am going to be working out every day moving forward, when before it was like 3 days a week. So there's certain disciplines I'm just going to keep carrying forward. So what did you learn when you got 55 days in? Is there anything that you carried forward before?
Oh man, it was just, I think the biggest thing is, like you said, it forces you to look at how you're spending your time, right? Because you could either be, to get that 10 pages in before the end of the day, oftentimes that means giving up TV, right?
Yep.
And so that single thing was probably the biggest thing for me after that I took away from the first time I did the challenge, is just cutting out TV and replacing it with reading too. And once it's hard at first, just because our mind wants to go to the easy thing, and TV's the easy thing. But once you do, you start building momentum with that habit, and it becomes it's what you do, and the same thing with the water too. And the water, the biggest trick with the water is you just have to start really early in the day. You have to start first thing, because otherwise, even all week, I feel like, since I've been sick, being sick, it threw me for a little bit of a loop, but now I'm feeling better. So I'm really excited to get some really good workouts in, because the last few days I'm doing arm circles, just doing anything I can to, hobbling around my neighborhood. But No, the workouts just they become addicting because you just feel so good after, you can't run around your neighborhood for, 6 miles and then come back and just not feel great about life. Honestly, it's just the way to start your.
I love 100% agree with you. There's one thing that's been really awesome for me in this too is one of the rules with the workouts. It's rain or shine. And like you said, you have to do one outside every day. Mm-hmm. And so 2 45-minute workouts, one inside, one outside, or it doesn't have to be one inside, one outside. At least one has to be outside every day. So you could do both of them outside if you wanted.
Yeah.
But rain or shine. And so right now in Oregon, it rains. And so usually I get my first workout in earlier than this. I just didn't make it happen today. So I've got to get 2 in now before I go to bed. But the last few nights I've kind of got out at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock or something like that after the kids are in bed, and it was raining. And normally I'd be like, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
I'm going to get all wet and it just doesn't sound fun. I'm just not going to do that. And now I'm excited about it. Like I'm actually pumped to get out in the rain. Like it just sounds, because I'm like, the harder, the better.
Right? No, I agree. In LA, the first time I did it during you just feel like a badass. You're like, I'm the only one out here,
I love it.
Just do, yeah.
There's a mental change that happens in that for sure, because if you can get out there and do the workout when it's raining, the whole thing is where else is that going to translate in life, right? It's like when you have the choice of picking the water versus the soda pop, you're going to go, well, shoot, I'm just going to do the water because that's the right choice and the hard choice. Most people would make the other one. Or in business, when we talk about SEO and we talk about, how that can be a grind for a while. In business, it's the same mindset. Well, I know it's not easy, but I'm going to do it because I know the end result is going to be so much better. Mm-hmm. And it might be easier to do this other thing in the short term. And I might get better, quicker results there or whatever for the short term. But doing this hard thing now is going to be so much better for the long term.
And, and doing the hard thing now makes it easy. Doing it now makes it easier to do it the next time too. Mm-hmm. And it never gets easy, but you just start to build this momentum, and, one good decision leads to the next and leads to the next, and it just compounds.
I love it. So one last quick question for you here. We brought it up at the beginning briefly, but you're at the last Carrot Camp, and it was so fun having you there and the other 14 some odd people. It was a bummer we couldn't go up the river. It was about a month ago for the first time I went up there finally, and it's scorched. It's a bummer. It's such a bummer. So hopefully we'll be able to get up there in the coming year maybe with Carrot Camp, but we're going to figure out something else. But Carrot Camp, let's talk about that for a few minutes. It's been really cool seeing that every single Carrot Camp, it's almost like there's this cohort, there's this alumni that stick together. At least there's a handful of the people that kind of do, afterwards.
Yeah.
What was your experience like at Carrot Camp? And good stuff, bad stuff. But what was your experience like at Carrot Camp? What did you pull away from it?
It was amazing. It was just, meeting everyone and just seeing your guys's. I went away from Carrot Camp just so inspired by your love for your community and just, connecting with all the other entrepreneurs there, and just you guys are doing some amazing stuff. So seeing that was amazing, and meeting everyone. And I have to say, probably one of my favorite things to come out of Carrot Camp is meeting Keith.
Oh my God, everybody. Everybody's favorite thing is always Keith.
Yeah, he's so cool. We talk pretty frequently now, and just he's the only other person I know that will geek out on backlinks with me for like 2 hours, so he's really cool.
So guys, Christina's talking about Keith Sant, and he's been on the podcast at least once, maybe twice, but for sure once. And he's become a good friend of mine too. I know in that December challenge, I tossed the challenge out to people that I knew here locally, and no one else said yes. I'm like, come on, guys. And then I tossed it out to Instagram, and what happens? Keith Sant steps up and he's like, I'll do it.
Yeah,
dude, game on. So we did it. Unfortunately, fortunately, he's safe and healthy now.
Yeah.
But he got hit by a car in that challenge up in Tacoma, which is always a good reminder how fragile life is. And you never know what's around the corner. But he's doing good. And him and I talked today. I was checking out some Clubhouse stuff today, and we were welcoming Brady on my team in. There's like a little welcome Brady room, and Keith popped in there and we had a chance to connect. So he's a bright spot in the world in general. Just an amazing dude.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's been really, he was probably one of my most favorite people that I met in 2021. He's just a really cool guy.
I love it. So Christina, I'll ask you about Carrot here. So I know you're smart enough. You've got a great business. You're pulling deals in every single month with Carrot, with SEO. Why continue to use Carrot versus going custom? Why do you use Carrot versus a custom site or any other competitors?
I mean, why try to fix what isn't broken or, reinvent the wheel? You guys, I don't really know too much about like code stuff and all of the back end, really techie kinds of stuff. But from what I know, you guys make fast sites, and that's important. And all of the, the background stuff you guys handle. So I have no interest in doing any of that. And you guys just make it so easy to design everything. And, and the number one reason I went with you guys initially is if you look at every market, almost any website where it's not an iBuyer or like a We Buy Houses, if they're number one, it's almost always a Carrot site. So it's just a no-brainer.
I love it. Well, Christina, is awesome hanging out with you. I appreciate you big time, and just being a light for so many people. Now we get to shine that light brighter, and hopefully we can meet in person again soon. My little brother just moved down to Scottsdale again, so I'll probably be coming down to the Phoenix area sometime this year, and I'll hit you up when I'm down there.
Yeah, definitely.
Hopefully we'll be able to go somewhere public, and like if things are open up because of COVID, I don't know. Yeah. But thank you very much, Christina, and everyone. Make sure you go and execute what we talked about here on this episode. So I'm going to do a quick recap. We walked through how Christina finds her VAs, how she works with her VAs effectively to help kind of regain that time. We walked through how she does the marketing in her markets, started with cold calling in both those markets and had started to go away from that as she got the momentum with the SEO, the evergreen marketing. So she's getting evergreen results from work that she did years ago and she continues to modify today. It was really cool going through the refresh of the website with you, because I know your website before looks really good, but now it looks amazing. And the credibility and just trust factor, like you said, is just through the roof, and which is not required, but it's a big advantage right now. Which is really cool. And then we touch base in some more personal stuff in the 75 Hard Challenge and Carrot Camp. So Christina, any parting words for people here on your first episode of the Carrot Cast with us?
Yeah, just thanks for listening. I just love Carrot. I have nothing but amazing things to say about what you guys have done for me, for my company, and it's just, it's a no-brainer. If anyone's on the fence about joining Carrot, you should definitely do it.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, Christina. Guys and gals, go into Spotify, go into Apple Podcasts, hit subscribe in there so you guys can get first access to all podcasts that we have. My daughter, on the other side, oldest daughter, McKinley, getting ready for dance here. And give us a rating and review, y'all. We're looking to push towards that 500 5-star ratings and reviews. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. And by doing that, it helps us to spread more love, get this podcast in front of more people. And so if you've gotten any value out of the Carrot Cast, whether it's this episode or another one, your payment to us, your investment in this is the 14 seconds it'll take to give a rating and review in Apple Podcasts. So we appreciate you guys. Have an amazing rest of the week. Be a beacon of positivity and possibility this week and help other people out, just like Christina has today. And Mr. Keith Sant is all the time. Christina, thank you. Have a great week.
Thanks.